Over the past couple of years, Motorola has been killing it. The Moto G, Moto E, and Moto X, the Droid Turbo, the Nexus 6, and even the Moto 360 smashed the smartwatch industry. The original Moto X was based on being affordable and providing a good Android experience, but the new 2014 Moto X is slightly less affordable, completely customizable, and offers a top-notch Android experience. So here is my full review of the 2014 Motorola Moto X. With no contract, you can get the 16GB version for $500, 32GB for $550, or 64GB for $600. I picked up mine, the 16GB version, for $450 new on a Cyber Monday sale, and you can basically get them regularly on eBay for just a little bit above $400. And comparatively, that's a well-priced phone, but it's not breaking any records or shattering any minds like the OnePlus One did. One of the biggest features of the Moto X is actually Moto Maker. You can customize almost every aspect of your phone. The three biggest are the body color, the back material and color, and the trim color. I went with the silver trim, the white body in front, and then the bamboo back, and in my opinion, it looks extremely sexy. And because of that, Moto Maker is kind of a genius idea. Anybody can customize the Moto X and make it perfect for them, which will drive customers away from other smartphones to the Moto X because they can customize the colors and the material right down to exactly what they want their phone to look like. The Moto X is right in the sweet spot for size. It's got a 5.2-inch screen with slim bezels, so it's still manageable, and you can use it with one hand. It's very possible. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but you can do it, and you still have a big enough screen to enjoy content consumption on your phone. It's sort of a balance between portability and screen size, but not everybody out there wants a huge phablet-sized screen, and a lot of people want to be able to use it with one hand and keep it portable, so I think the 5.2-inch medium-sized phone is a great middle ground, and I think Motorola really hit the nail on the head. The build on the Moto X is top-notch. The entire front is covered by Gorilla Glass 3, the entire trim is made out of metal, and the back is whatever material you choose. It could be wood, leather, or a soft-touch plastic, all in colors that you would choose. There's also a metal dimple on the back that when you put your finger on it, it just kind of feels right and feels comfortable. I don't know, it's hard to explain. But basically, whenever you're holding the phone in one hand and two-handed, you're mostly touching metal because of that metal trim around the device, so it feels really premium when you're holding it. And there's also some heft to it. It's not that light of a phone, so you feel like you're holding a quality piece of technology, not a little toy. So speaking about durability, I have dropped this phone a ton on wood, on marble, on concrete. I have actually dropped this phone more than I'm willing to admit, but it's still in near perfect condition. There are no scratches, no cracks, nothing like that, only just a couple of minor scuffs around the edges. Everything up to this point has been about the form, but now I want to talk about the function, and I'm just going to do a quick run through of the physical overview of the phone because I find them kind of boring, so let's get it out of the way. On the front, you have your sensors for Moto display, front-facing camera, regular speaker, and call speaker. On the bottom, you have your micro USB port. On the right, you have your very rough power button, and below that, a smooth volume rocker. And by the way, that rough power button is the best thing that's ever happened. On the top, you have your headphone jack and your SIM tray. On the left, you have absolutely nothing. And on the back, you have your rear-facing camera, ring LED light module thing, and the M dimple. Overall, the layout is pretty ergonomic. It's easy to use in two hands, but it's also possible to use in just one. The new Moto X moved up to a 5.2-inch 1920 by 1080 AMOLED display, and 1920 by 1080 is really all you need on a 5.2-inch screen. It keeps everything on your screen looking crisp and sharp, and it's not wasting any battery by running a 1440p screen. And the AMOLED screen is immediately noticeable when you use this device, and basically what AMOLED does is it doesn't turn on black pixels, which one gives you extremely deep blacks and high contrast on all your pictures, but it also helps save battery. But basically with this, you just get really popping and contrast images like you can see here. You just get really dark blacks and it looks absolutely fantastic. And going from an AMOLED screen back to a regular phone is completely noticeable, and I really don't like it. The brightness toggle is actually pretty interesting. Yes, it gets pretty bright so you can read it in daylight, but it also gets crazy dim, like so dim you can only use it in a pitch black room, which is perfect before you go to bed so you don't strain your eyes, you can still get a good night of sleep. The rear-facing camera is a 13 megapixel shooter, and frankly, I don't like it. The default interface is a tap anywhere on the screen to capture type deal, and I don't like that either. Even with manual exposure settings where you just drag the exposure window, I still don't like that because you still just tap anywhere on the screen to take a picture. And I know I could download a different camera app, but really when you take pictures with the Moto X, the pictures rarely come out that sharp. They're usually out of focus or just don't look that good in general, and I've been disappointed with the camera, but it does include 4K recording, so that's a plus. And also, the ring flash on the back isn't actually a ring flash. It's just two light modules that basically work like dual flash, but it's in like a ring encasing to make it look like it's a ring light, but it's not really, and it just operates like a dual flash would. The front-facing camera, on the other hand, is a 2 megapixel camera. Really doesn't take that great of pictures. Like, I'm talking even on Snapchat standards, the pictures are pretty bad, so I was disappointed with that. The speaker on the Moto X is deceiving. On the front, you have two speaker grills, which look great, but only the bottom one is actually a speaker. Yeah, you don't actually get dual stereo speakers, even though it looks like it should and they're right there. Only the bottom one is actually the speaker. The top speaker is just for calls, and this was really disappointing because it looks so good. The speaker grills are already there. It could have been stereo, but instead only the bottom speaker is actually a speaker, and the top one is just a call speaker. But don't get me wrong, the speaker itself is fine. It gets pretty loud, it sounds pretty clear, and it is front-facing, so you don't have to use your hand to curl the sound, and the sound is directed at your face instead of the wall to the side of you. For an operating system, it's running Android 5.0 Lollipop, which is by far the best Android version to date, which would make sense because it's the most recent Android version. It's really just more smooth and polished than previous versions, and it's actually kind of reminiscent of iOS, but that's a good thing. Motorola is running basically stock Android with just a few additions like setting custom voice commands, so you can set the keyword for your voice command to anything you want, like activate voice command. See, it just went off. There's also active notifications that when you wave your hand over the front of the phone when it's laying on the table, the sensors detect your hand and then they display notifications in time without turning all the pixels on, so it saves battery, which is a great idea in practice and stuff, but I did find it wasted a teeny bit of battery, so I just kept it off because it wasn't that useful and I didn't use it that often, or as much as I thought I would anyway. Speaking of the battery, it's only 2300 milliamp hours and is non-removable, so I think as a whole, the battery was a huge miss by Motorola, who's usually pretty good with their batteries. I can hardly get a day out of the battery life on the Moto X, which is pretty embarrassing because I'm a very light smartphone user, and at the end of the day, I'm still left with only 10-15% of my battery. Conclusion time. The Moto X 2014 offers a fantastic Android experience. The rock-solid hardware paired with Android 5.0 Lollipop offer a smooth and enjoyable experience that really hasn't been matched by any other Android phone yet. The size of the phone is great and the customizability is absolutely unrivaled in today's market, but the camera and battery size definitely need some improvement. But don't get me wrong, overall I have really enjoyed my time with the 2014 Moto X. So that's it for this video. Let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with some of the points that I made. I have this really cool series comparing the Dell XPS 13 versus the MacBook Air coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you want to see more content. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay classy.